What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. So it looks like Juan Manuel Marquez had some things to say about Saul Canelo Alvarez. He made some recent comments, and this is an excerpt from the article. And this is what Marquez said, referring to Canelo. A win over Trout does not confirm that Canelo is the best, because there are higher quality opponents out there. This is an important step for Canelo, and the win over Trout gives him access to bigger fights. He has to face the right opponents and prove that he is a great fighter. Opponents like Sergio Maravilla Martinez, Vanes Matariosin, Arislandi Lara. He has to fight against those kind of opponents to prove that he is among the best in the world. That's where it should be confirmed that he's great and where he will gain greater credibility, said Marquez. Now, I'm a huge Marquez fan, have been for quite some time. I see where he's going, but I can't agree 100%. I don't think Canelo, with this win, has proven that he's elite, but at the same rate, you got to cut Canelo some slack. I mean, the kid is 22 years old. He's been fighting since he was 15. The biggest problem that I ever had with Canelo was his handlers and Team Canelo, their decision to put him against people that I ultimately think would not bring the best out of Canelo. People like Kermit Cintron, and Kermit Cintron was a good fighter once upon a time, but at the point in which he fought Canelo, he wasn't looking too sharp. I mean, he had lost 2 out of 3 of his fights right before Canelo. So, in my opinion, he was pretty washed up. I know the term washed up gets thrown around a lot, but for him specifically, I think Kermit Cintron was pretty much done. And it kind of goes to show you that when these fighters fight Canelo, if they were in their prime, look what happens when they fight Canelo, and then what happens to their career after. What I mean by that, look at Carlos Baldomir. After he fought Canelo, he got knocked out. What happened to his career? He didn't fight anymore. Kermit Cintron, I don't know if he retired for some time. I think he has something coming up now, but he fought Canelo a while ago, and he hasn't done shit. Shane Mosley went into retirement. So it just lets you know where these people were at in their career based on what happened. Look at other people like Juan Manuel Lopez. He got knocked out. He lost to Salido twice, but he didn't retire from the sport. Amir Khan, he lost to Peterson, and then he got knocked out, but he didn't retire in the sport. So again, it just goes to show you that even though Canelo beat those guys, they really weren't in the prime of their career. However, with that being said, you got to cut Canelo some slack because he's 22, and one thing he is showing is that he's a fighter that has a brain, and he is improving. I can honestly say that. When he first came out, I think him and Chavez Jr., they started getting a lot of media attention at the same time, and people were talking about those two fighting. And I was like, okay, what is up with this dude? I mean, I get it. He has red hair. He's Hispanic. He speaks Spanish. That's cool. But I had to see more. And then, like I said, as he keeps fighting and keeps fighting, he seems to be getting better. He seems to fight more mature than his age. So as far as Marquez, like I said, I'm a longtime supporter, but I can't 100% agree. Again, I don't think one fight or the fights with Josecito or whatever deem Canelo as an elite boxer, but at the same time, you got to give the kid credit for being 22 years old and unifying, and that's really what it is. Like, I mean, anytime someone's able to unify, don't get me wrong, I don't renege or take back anything that I said. I am opposed to open scoring. I think the fight was much, much closer than the Texas judges had it in the Canelo Trout fight. However, he still did things that made Austin Trout look a lot more vulnerable than Cotto was able to do. So you got to give Canelo some slack for being young and wanting challenges. I mean, he's calling out Mayweather. It sounded like he wanted the Trout fight. I didn't really hear any excuses once the fight was underway with the negotiation. And the fight happened. It took place. He did what he did. Trout did what he did. And, I mean, some credit has to be given. So as far as Marquez's statements, I can't really 100% agree with what he's saying. I know those two have had a beef, if you will, in the past, and they haven't really always seen eye to eye. Marquez criticized Canelo for fighting nobodies, just like a lot of boxing fans, and I think Canelo called him out. So they've had some back and forth banter between the two, possibly over who's the biggest star in Mexico. I don't know. Maybe egos. Who knows? No pun intended. So I will give Canelo credit. Like I said, you have to, even though I don't think one fight can make anybody elite, but it was a good step up in challenge. He rose to the occasion. He came out victorious, even though there was discrepancies, in my opinion, with the open scoring. Some people thought Trout won. Some people thought Canelo won. But either way, he took the challenge. He looked better than a lot of people expected him. He showed other that he had some other tools in the tool shed with head movement, not just being a pressure fighter or somebody who just comes forward like a Brandon Rios, Margarito, that he's actually a Mexican fighter with a brain and not just the, you know what I mean, the Omar Figueroa type of heart and come forward pressure. I mean, he showed that there's a different level to his game, so you got to give props where it's due. And he's still young. I mean, they're still grooming him. He still has a lot to learn, and I'm anxious to see what the next step is. They also say Canelo will be attending the Mayweather-Guerrero fight, which is what I expected. So props to Canelo for just attending. I mean, he's been at a lot of the big fights, especially with people he might potentially fight. So it seems like he truly is an avid sports fan or a fan of boxing. He says as a child, his early childhood influences were Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Oscar de la Hoya, and Muhammad Ali. So sounds like he's boxing. I mean, he's into boxing. I got to give him props for that. And like I said, he's young, so I don't think this makes him elite, but the only thing he could do from this point, only time reveals. He can only just step up, rise to these occasions, and either disprove the critics or prove them right. So as of right now, he definitely, in my opinion, bought himself some time by having a young, undefeated game opponent, and there are points where he definitely made Austin Trout look a lot more vulnerable than we have seen him in the past. So for that reason, you got to give Canelo some props. One fight, again, doesn't make anybody elite in my book, but just the same thing with Marquez. He wasn't, to me, when he was 22, I didn't consider him elite. I don't even know if I knew him at that point when he was 22, because I would have been pretty young. But again, the reason Marquez is known, in my opinion, top 5 Mexican fighters ever, the reason I put him in that category is because he consistently proves that he's a game opponent, that he's a challenge, that he's a thinker, and all of that legacy was created over time. Same thing with people like Floyd Mayweather Jr. So realistically, I understand what Marquez is saying. Like, there are other options out there to see how he looks against people like Erislandy Lara or Sergio Martinez. There are other fights out there, but you have to give him some credit for what he's done thus far. And the biggest complaint people had was that he hadn't fought nobody. Now he has fought someone. He showed you how he looked in that. There's still things that are where the jury's still out in terms of his stamina. I don't know why he's fighting in such spurts and that kind of thing. And how would he look against different styles? Those things are obviously, the jury's still out because we don't know. But the kid is young, and only time is going to ultimately reveal where we place Canelo in the future. I mean, we had people like Fernando Vargas or people like Jermaine Taylor a couple years ago. No, I don't know about a couple years ago. A while ago, I had a friend, and Jermaine Taylor was it for him. He was just like, oh, Jermaine Taylor's unstoppable. He's the best. And ultimately, time revealed that wasn't necessarily the case. Jermaine Taylor had stamina issues and whatever else. So ultimately, the only thing that's going to tell is time. So it's really a waste of time to make statements about somebody. We just have to see how his career path, how his destiny continues to unfold. So what do you guys think of Canelo? Where is he at? I think he's definitely a game and a threat to really anybody at 154. It's just a matter of I got to see more, and I have to continue to see and show and prove. Same thing with like people like Danny Garcia. When I seen him fight Eric Morales the first time, I had heard a little bit about him amateur-wise and stuff, but I hadn't really seen him fight. He fought Eric Morales the first time, old Eric Morales, and to be honest, I was like, okay, that was a good fight. He held his own. I earned a little bit of respect for him, but I wasn't just like, oh, this dude is the top of his division. He's gonna take over. But slowly but surely, Danny Garcia started proving more and more, and the jury's still out, so to speak. But so far, he's rose to the occasions. The Morales rematch, and Morales was testing positive. The Mir Khan, where he's the underdog. So again, all these fighters can do at such a young age is keep proving people wrong through time. So we got to wait it out on this one. What do you guys think of Canelo? Where is he at? Who do you want to see him fight next? That's all I got to say. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Until next video, it's Ego signing off.